as the fourth character. This is a 5-star limited character of this type. Don't lock the team. Don't lock the team. Don't even need a dedicated support. In comparison, Tom looks like an alien. How? Genshin Impact Design. Did you unlock it? First as Navia. Elegant 4-hit normal attack. After completing the first 2 normal attacks, Navia will kick. Secondary weapon as a 2-handed sword, after causing 3 hits of damage. Okay, bow. Then take out her main weapon, an umbrella. After performing an upward attack, open the umbrella to land safely. After completing the 4th normal attack, this set of normal attacks is more of a support role in actual combat. It helps Navia play a more supportive role, so the 2-handed sword is her secondary weapon. While Navia holds down the E skill, she will take out her main weapon again, umbrella, gun, and enter the aiming state. Also gains a certain amount of interruption resistance, although it is not invincible, but when combined with Xingqia's interruption resistance, it can withstand strong attacks. After entering the aiming state for 4 seconds, or releasing the E skill button manually, the umbrella bombs will shoot out 5 projectiles, while also summoning a surge blade, dealing a burst of geo-elemental damage. You can also choose to tap the E skill. The umbrella bombs will rapidly shoot out 5 projectiles, whether tapping or holding. The cooldown of the E skill is 9 seconds, and it can be stored twice. If there are crystals generated from geo-elemental reactions on the field, any member of the team can pick up the crystals, or Ningguang can absorb the crystals by holding the E skill. To the left of Ningguang, an additional buff will appear that lasts for 300 seconds. Crystallized fragments. The crystallized fragments buff can stack up to 6 layers. Each stack refreshes the duration. At this time, Ningguang uses the E skill, which will consume all the crystallized fragments buff. Each layer of crystallized fragments will allow number of fragments fired by the umbrella gun, plus 2 more, at most, plus 6 more. That is, 1 layer of buff equals 7 fragments. The maximum value of 3 layers of buff is 11 fragments. Although the umbrella gun can fire multiple fragments, the damage is only calculated once. The more fragments hit the enemy, the higher the damage for this segment. If only 1 fragment hits the enemy, then it is the base multiplier of the skill. Level 10, 710. 5 fragments hit the enemy, then the multiplier zone will receive a multiplication bonus of 120. That is, 1.2 times. 7 fragments, 140. 9 fragments, around 160. 11 fragments, 200. So try to use the E skill when there are 3 layers of buff. When 11 fragments all hit the same enemy, there will be a yellow rose flashing on the screen as a prompt. Then the part of the crystal fragment buff exceeding 3 layers. That is, layers 4, 5, and 6. Enter the aiming state to increase the damage caused by the next shot. Enter aiming mode to continuously acquire nearby crystal reactions. So you can consider the crystal shard buff. Understand it as 2 parts. The first 3 layers increase the number of bullets. The last 3 layers increase damage. Besides that, there are a few key points about the E skill. What is the range of crystal absorption when holding down E? It is a circle centered around Navia. The radius is approximately this round. Does it not matter if you face this crystal? As long as it's within this range. Observe the distribution of these bullet fragments. You can see that there are 4 bullet fragments. They are very concentrated in the middle. Others are scattered around. So when dealing with a group, make the monsters line up in a straight line. Then use the E skill. Or when in the fan-shaped area in front of you, using the E skill would be better. When dealing with a single target, just put the gun barrel into the boss mouth. It is not difficult to notice. For this umbrella gun, the most important thing is the efficiency of obtaining crystalline shard buff, and this requires her normal attacks, and the assistance of her ultimate ability. Navia releases her ultimate ability, which first causes a burst of geo damage, and then, in the next 12 seconds, performs a support bombardment every 0.8 seconds, for a total of 17 times. Support bombardment hits enemies, and grants Navia a layer of crystalline shard buff, with a built-in cooldown of 2.4 seconds. In simple terms, the entire ultimate ability grants 5 layers of buff. At the same time, the high-frequency geo damage from the support bombardment, combined with other elemental characters in the team, can also relatively efficiently produce crystals. So, this ultimate ability is the main means of providing bullets for her umbrella gun. When combined with Navia's first talent, after using the E skill, Navia's normal attacks and charged plunging attacks will all be converted into geo damage, and it increases damage by 40. So at this time, normal attacks are the ones other than the ultimate. The second way to provide bullets, the elemental attachment of normal attacks and the ultimate, both have a dual counter mechanism with a 2.5 second interval. There are a few key points here. First, Navia's ultimate support bombardment has a relatively low multiplier. It doesn't require special attention whether this ultimate can consume full buffs. Then, this ultimate has a certain distance requirement for locking enemies. It's approximately this far. Beyond this distance, she randomly bombards around Navia. The ultimate requires 60 energy. In the case of having 2 geo characters in the team, it's generally not necessary to deliberately stack. Navia's energy recharge can be slightly off Navia's normal attack with geo element, although its main function is also to assist in crystal production. But the damage percentage, it can also account for about 20% to 30%. So the normal attack talent can also be selected. Lastly, the crystal reaction is quite unique. She has a built-in 1-second cooldown on monsters. And at most, there can be 3 crystals on the field at the same time. For Navia, crystals are definitely sufficient. But try to choose the long E section. Don't waste it. Then there's only one talent left. For each fire, water, thunder, and ice character in the team. The type of character. Navia's attack power will increase by 20. Up to 2 layers at most. This is very easy to understand. In your team, you must have another character of a different element to help Navia generate crystals. The only thing to note is, fire, water, thunder, and ice don't necessarily have to be different. 2 of the same element is also acceptable, so her team composition can be relatively flexible. So first, the attack power model. So, what about her second position? Currently, the best choice is still Bennett. And what about the rock-type character in the third position? Actually, all of them are good. Zhongli provides shield resistance reduction. As for Albedo, he further alleviates energy recharge. As for Ningguang, because of Navia's normal attacks, the damage proportion is not high, right? You can completely switch to Ningguang and do a combo. And what about the Chongyun screen? It can also increase damage. And she can bring the prototype Amber. If you want to bring the Hydro God doesn't have good compatibility with Bennett, right? You can use prototype Amber to alleviate it a bit. Lastly, the rock main. Navia, this character. Critical hits are very important for her. I recommend you stack Navia's critical hits to 80 or above. As for the rock main, he adds 10 to critical hits. And his ultimate lasts for 20 seconds. It's also completely own axis. And what about the last position in the team? You can adjust flexibly according to the environment. But if you don't bring Zhongli, I would recommend bringing Xingqiu instead. Because in actual combat, you rely solely on the crystallized shield. It's not quite enough. To be honest, the previous few Anemo and Geo characters, they were lacking in. The team needed the concept of a dedicated support. In fact, this game itself is like 4 puzzle pieces coming together to form a complete picture. All the main DPS characters have had some of their mechanics split onto a few support characters. It's just that it depends on how much splitting, how little splitting, and how high the emotional intelligence is.